I'm Nick Paulson, you're watching News 24 Live. I'm joined in studio by Garen Lamley, editor of Sport 24, and chief writer Rob Howing. We've been called in for somewhat of an emergency meeting to discuss the plight of the Springboks, gents. Shock defeat, I guess, for all and sundry. Rob, what do you make of that result and what needs to change before the England clash?
Well, it was certainly a shock outcome. I mean, I'd been quite brazen in thinking the Boks would win with a little bit to spare against an Irish team that was more weakened certainly than the Springboks were. So we all got our little sort of comeuppance. And the first thing we have to do, I think, is, and I think the Boks, to their credit, were not shy to do this, was to give credit to the Irish for the sheer tenacity and passion that they demonstrated. I also thought that the key for them was they just showed greater composure on the day, and that was a big thing. The Springboks possibly should have still won that game. Never mind that the scoreboard said 29-15. The Bok pack, I thought, generally did enough, especially at the set piece and in certain other respects, for South Africa to possibly have managed to squeeze out that game, which is at least some consolation. But at the end of the day, you look at the scoreboard and you've got to say, well played, Ireland. You took your chances when they came. They scored a brilliant try to put the cherry on top, really, and just ended up being a bad weekend. I'm not massively depressed. I think if you were going to have a comeuppance like that, why not have it a year out from a World Cup rather than in the tournament itself? It was a little reminder that those Six Nations sides are on a good day and with a crowd behind them are capable of knocking over just about anybody. Remember, the Irish came with an absolute whisker of knocking over the All Blacks as well in Dublin. So not all bad, but obviously plenty to think about. And again, I say that may not be such a bad thing.
Okay, we'll get on to some possible personnel changes just now. Garen, I read this weekend that of the last 6 visits to Dublin, we've only won 2 of them. So it shouldn't be that surprising, but I guess what surprised me or worried me was just the scoreline. I mean, if it wasn't for that late JP Peterson try, it would have been sort of 21-point margin or so.
Yeah, look, I might have to just disagree a little bit with Rob. I thought the Boks were pretty woeful. You know, considering we both sat here last week and said we'd win between 8 and 10 points, we were effectively like 25 points wrong. You know, which at that level, when you got the second best team in the world, there was a chance we could have gone to number 1 had we actually beaten Ireland. You know, for them to go down so badly, 10 months now out from a World Cup in the Northern Hemisphere against teams that, you know, we should really be beating, is a little bit worrying for me. As you correctly said, you know, the score blew out in the second half. It did close the gap by the 5 points when JP went over for the try. But it didn't ever really strike me that we were going to win that game. You know, from early on, there were a couple of penalties, 6-0 after 30 minutes. I thought, oh, you know, this is going to be one of those typical North-South games where it's going to be penalty, penalty, penalty. Andre Pollard again disappointed me. There's just something about him, you know. He plays some fantastic moments of matches. Against the All Blacks, you know, he scored those 2 tries in the Rugby Championships. Everyone was hailing him as the greatest player ever. You know, he's been yanked off so many times early now in matches that, you know, you get the feeling that Heineke May is still not 100% sold on the fact that he is his best number 10. You know, there's talk this week that Patrick Lambie's going to play next weekend at number 10, which is, again, you know, what does that say to, you know, when we think what Heineke is thinking is, you know, 10 months out from the World Cup? You know, he's got Morné Steyn there as well. Steyn can't play in the last test against Wales because he's based overseas and it falls outside of the window. So I get this horrible feeling that he's still got Steyn in the mix because he's not 100% sure about Lambie or Pollard at number 10. I think that will be a step backwards, but, you know, it's all about winning these World Cups. It really is rush back all your Bucky's boys, as Victor Matfield's at 38 years old, whatever he is, just to get over the line in the Rugby World Cup. That we're sort of forgetting about all these other little matches on the side. You know, we talked about beating the All Blacks as a fantastic bonus ahead of the World Cup when we beat them in South Africa. To me, that is 100% meaningless. If you're going to go and lose to Ireland and say, okay, well, at least it wasn't the World Cup, we'd rather lose now. You know, it amounts to me as the same. You know, I worry about the Springboks when in these one-off matches that, you know, we lost the scoreline. Had it been closer, we still would be going home from the World Cup. You know, the knockout stages, the way the draws panned out for this World Cup, you know, it looks like we're going to have an easy group, should top the group, but then could play in Australia or in England or even a Wales in the quarterfinals. And I don't know at the moment whether we would go into that match as even being favourites away from home against an England or a Wales even. I think we've got some trying moments ahead on this tour, you know, itself. I still think England are going to start as favourites against South Africa next weekend, even missing a ton of players as well. Ireland were missing plenty of players. They had their 4th best tight head playing and all sorts of stuff like that. I think there are some worrying moments, and you know, even going a little bit further back, we've had the best lead up possible to this. We rested everybody from the rugby from the Currie Cup. Sorry, we had this fantastic camp in Stellenbosch where everything apparently went really, really well. We had 20 contracted Springboks there. Then we had another 6 added, then another 5 or 6 added. Everyone's been together for a number of weeks now. We headed over to Ireland early. The weather wasn't that bad. You know, everything went really, really well. The crowd is pretty neutral. It wasn't even against us. You know, Nick Mullett said we can't blame the ref. So, and we still lost. So I'm a little bit worried. I still think we're going to lose to England next week. So that puts us 0-2 after 2 games. Italy even looked pretty good, I thought, against Samoa this weekend as well. That's not going to be a walkover. And then Wales without all the overseas Boks. You know, anything can really happen there. The Welsh team on paper is not a bad side. And they've, you know, I think I mentioned last time as well, we were fortuitous to beat them last time. There was an illegal trial that wasn't referred to the TMO, and that was more than the difference that we actually won by. So they've got a point to prove as well. And then we don't play a lot of tests between now and the end of the Rugby World Cup. If you think that all the Northern Hemisphere teams have still got the whole 6 nations to go through, they've still got about 10 or 12 tests. We've got sort of like 3 or 4 at most. So, you know, it's a little bit worrying. You know, it's easy to say, 10 months away, we'll sort all these problems out. But I'm not 100% sure we know what our best team is at the moment.